It was an early morning in Canterlot Castle. A royal guard by the name Blade Trail had just started his shift when he walked in the corridors when he ran into Celestia. She was on the way her to the dining room to have breakfast with her sister Luna. Celestia and Blade Trail had a small conversation before he went back on his duty. Blade Trail had been in the service of Luna and Celestia for at least about 2 years by now, and he felt grateful and that he was very gratitude that he been had opportunity to serve the princess by protecting them. Even though he knows that they are very talented to be able to defend themselves, but he felt honored to have been chosen to be among this new staff within Royal Guard to be able to defend the castle and its staff and the princesses if needed. Even though that Blair Trail himself was quite even very fast and even skilled in magic, but even when he was not on duty, he usually spent time with some other Royal Guard members in town or just spent time in his small apartment in town. He usually didn't live with the other among the other Royal Guards in the barracks in the castle. In fact, he had his own small place that he got after just shortly after he moved to Canterlot. It wasn't until after about 6 months after he moved to Canterlot when he decided to join the Royal Guard. So he joined the Royal Guard Academy that was located in Canterlot. Even though he knows it would be an intense training, and even though when he probably wouldn't be chosen to be one of the new guards to be serving at the castle, but when he was one of the few that has been chosen to serve in the castle, he felt both excited and honored. His family was so very excited to know that he would be chosen to be part of the castle guard. But for the past 2 years in service in the castle, he felt super excited. He always get along with the rest of the staff and even on the guards, and even during his duty, he usually made some he usually told some jokes or pranks, no, mostly jokes about some of the staff their to make their day at least more excited. And even the staff always calling him Mr. Laugher or Mr. Good Jokes. He would usually didn't mind being called that. He always saw that if any pony were having a bad day at the castle, if it was a guard or one of the staff, or perhaps even princesses, he would try to make a bad pull up joke at them, even if it was a bad joke, but they always make them seeing him having a smile. He actually was very much enjoying his job as a royal guard. But it was something else though. Not only serving the princesses, but only that was something that when he started serving Celestia even more during the days. Sometimes it happens that she asks him to do some errands for him in town, which he didn't mind, because it happens other guards also had to do some errands for her, like if they needed to get some new supplies for scrolls or any documents that they needed to be transferred to the city. So even though when even at just shortly after Blade Trail had just been transferred to the castle of Canterlot Castle, he was a little bit first excited but also a little bit nervous how he didn't want to make any bad in he didn't want to make a bad impression to the princesses or any of other sort of staff, but especially his royal commander, his commander at the or at least the captain of the royal guard. He didn't want to make any bad impression of him, especially. But after he actually had been proving himself during his during duties at night times, but it happened that he had to serve even during night time, which he didn't have any mind. Even there weren't much actions during night times, but he still did his service as much as he could. And one time when he asked his captain if he was allowed to be taking a time off just for 1 day so that he could spend some with his family who was in town for a visit, which the captain agreed. But one day during his service, he was just walking by the castle's dining room where Luna and Celestia were having breakfast. They were just talking when they noticed him standing there, and he nodded. And before he was about to walking away, they asked him like how his day had been so far, and it was just early morning. And he said, "Everything has been going well, princesses, your highness. My duty is always to be protecting and serving you." And then he went on. Even when Luna saw that Celestia was looking at Blade Trail, she didn't notice at first until when she was just talking, but for some reason, while she was talking, she noticed that Celestia didn't even pay attention to her talking. So she said, "Equestia to Celestia, hello!" And Celestia just jumped up and looked at her sister. "Oh, sorry, I was thinking about something else, and would that be the guard that was just by the door by any chance?" Celestia tried to avoid that particular topic, and she tried to make like try to talk about something else, but Luna didn't have anything else to talk about after that. "Okay, you mean that the guard Blade Trail? Yeah, he's a good guard. He's he's friendly." "I know that," says Luna. "I also know that he always makes jokes to other staff and his guards to make them happy, or at least to make them smile. But you have to admit, he's quite handsome." "Yeah, that's true though, but I don't know if I would even with someone like a guard. I don't know how public would react to that," said Celestia. "Well, you never know until you even perhaps ask him." "Wait, you want me to date a real guard?" "Well, maybe get to know him better. At least, maybe be a better friend to him." "Well, that is something I perhaps could do, but I'm quite so busy lately on these couple of days now," said Celestia. Luna smiled and nodded that she understood, because as the royal princess of the entire kingdom, it is always busy, no matter what happens. But today, Luna and Celestia didn't have any much royal duties that being taken care of. So Luna said, "Well, since we don't have much duties today, I can always take care of yours and mine, so you can maybe spend time with Blade Trail." "Are you sure about that, Luna?" "Of course, sis. I can always take care of my duties and yours. And after all, there's just a couple of things we have to take care of today. And even if I was going to lower the sun, which you always taking care of." "Fair point," said Celestia with a smile, and said, "I will try to talk to him a little bit later, okay? I have to make some preparations for my duties for you to take care of." "Right," said Luna. So they both decided to just enjoy the rest of the breakfast. But during that particular time, though, Blade Trail actually didn't mind to talking about Celestia and Luna to the guards. Like, he always wanted her to hear more about them, like some of the past adventures, or how their past, how the old guards had to react to their company sometimes. Even his old captain actually did mention some that he was actually quite good friends with both princesses, and he had been serving them for nearly 20 years, and soon he himself was going to retire. So they had decided to maybe to ask around, had tried to be discussing who would be replacing his old captain. And Blake Trail didn't had no idea which candidates this captain had in mind. When when Blade Trail asked who he had considered to be as his replacement, but the captain said that he couldn't tell because it was still in early discussions with the princesses, and they had made a promise not even to tell any pony until they finally had decided which pony to be replacing him. Even even though he had some ideas maybe which pony could be, after all, He has only been in the service for only barely for 2 years, while others have in the past been in service for nearly 5 years or maybe 10 years, which has more experience in him than another from Blade Trail. But he didn't mind to be serving under new captain. Even when Blade Trail said, "Well, if it was me, I would be shocked if I was even one of them among the few opponents had been considered to be as your replacement, sir." But the captain said, "Well, well, Blade Trail, one day maybe you could perhaps be the new captain of the Royal Guard. After all, you're a very loyal and trustworthy guard, and as many staff here loves your jokes, even despite there are some very bad ones," said the captain with a smile. "You'll go through that, sir. Well, I had to continue my duties, so carry on." During the time, Luna happened now to be taking care of Luna, her own, and Celestia's duties, while Celestia was walking around in the castle, minding her business, just having a good time when she ran into, rather than, Blade Trail. Blade Trail was actually on his duty when he ran into Celestia. They were just staring at each other for a few seconds, which felt almost an eternity. But they actually stopped talking, and she joined him while he was doing his duties, and they would actually get to know each other better. It turned out that Blade Trail was in fact from Trottingham, and his family was very proud that he has been a part of the Royal Guards ever since he was young. He has always wanted to be part of it. And when he's told that he heard from his old captain, or the captain, that he's going to be retiring soon, and even though the princess will not even reveal any sort of secrets or any of the candidates, but he'd ask how many candidates have been asked or was in consideration to be the next captain, even though he said that she wouldn't ever telling him the names of them. But he was just curious how many ponies had been considered. And that was the only thing Celestia could tell him. Considerably, there was only about 4 other ponies. But she told them there was at least 4 stallions. And he was actually just happy to know one of them may have been more experienced to be as the new captain. She asked him if he had any dreams to be the next captain of the Royal Guards in Canterlot one day. He said maybe one day, but since hasn't only been in service for 2 years, and then could have been considered that he wasn't that experienced enough to be even considered to be as a captain. But if the new captain would have chosen maybe a second in command, that it was something he probably could have been even also accept. But despite him said, even if I would be offered as a captain of the guard, I perhaps would have declined the offer, since I'm not even experienced enough to be as a captain. And Celestia actually but smiled and said that she completely understood. If it was in her place, if she was a royal guard for 2 years, she probably wouldn't even have been decided or even picked as one of the candidates. And that made him smile and laugh a bit. Yeah, truly that. They both actually started enjoying about each other's company. But as time passed on, Blade Trail actually started to get to know Celestia even more and more for each single time that they talked. But there was something else about Celestia though. She was very more open about herself, her dreams. He had even had to ask her if she hasn't, even if she wasn't being chosen to be the next princess or the ruler of the entire kingdom. What else would she be doing if she wasn't a princess? And that made her think about it for a brief moment and said, "If I wasn't a princess, I perhaps would have been a teacher, since I always loved to be teaching other ponies, since I had a few personal students in the past, like Sunset Shimmer and Princess Twilight. Yes, I know about that," says Blade Trail. Yes, and it is almost like that. I would have been a teacher. What about you? Oh, if I wasn't a royal guard, I probably would have been. That's a good question. I perhaps maybe a teacher in magic or something. Maybe I really haven't even considered that. He said. But even despite this, the meetings between Celestia and Blade Trail became more frequent. Sometimes during his breaks, or sometimes when he was on his shift. But it's something else though, because shortly after he had been spent time for maybe it's about 2 months, Celestia was actually spending some time with Livna one evening when they talked about their day and when a topic about Blade Trail came up. Luna said, I have noticed you have spent more time with Blade Trail lately, for the past 2 months. Is something else going on between you two? And Celestia looked at her sister. Well, you were the one that actually asked me to spend some time with him. Or at least get to know him. Well, yeah, but it's not that so much. Pony started even actually start talking about if you two are, you know, an item. An item? You mean, you know, dating? And Celestia actually got so red in her face. She hadn't actually never heard the rumors about talking that Celestia would be dating a royal guard. Wait, ponies actually talk about that? Wait, you actually didn't heard about it? Honestly, no. You know, being a busy princess that always keeps me busy for the time. I just spend time in the throne room or in my own chambers, but this, no, I never heard about it. Huh? That's weird," said Luna with a smile. "Well, is it true?" "Well, you do love him, don't you?" she said with a smile and a small grin. Celestia tried to avoid the gaze, but you don't deny it, sister. You know I know you well. All right, all right, but please keep it for yourself. Yes, in fact, for the past month I have been falling in love with him. He's so handsome, so quite honest about himself, so well behaved. But I don't know how the public would even react if I would even date a old guard, said Celestia with a smile and still with a whisper. You know, Luna, I do love him. But as the old man says, if you would truly love somebody like that, you had to let him go, despite that. But sister, if you really love him, why don't you even tell him? I don't know, Luna. I just I just don't know how he will react. Maybe he was only like me as a friend. Maybe see him as like a best friend or something. But you need to tell him. I no, I can't. And that after that, they both dropped the topic and talked about something else. But that thing actually did bother Livna. Seeing her older sister so in love with some pony, but knowing that maybe not be able to get married, or at least been dating it in public. But it came to her realize like that. She realized that Cadence, she is a princess, and she was in fact dating the old captain of the Royal Guard, Shining Armor, Twilight's older brother, and now they also married. And the public had no idea, had no against that. So why wouldn't Celestia been able to date Blade Trail? So she tried to set up a small place, maybe that they both could confess their feelings with each other. So, but the next day, when Luna was just walking around the castle, she actually walked into no matter than Blade Trail. Blade Trail was in fact on his duty when she walked into it. He was a bit surprised to see Luna though, because he thought maybe she was doing her some other business or something like that. Your Highness, can I do something for you? Yes, come with me. So they both went into the castle garden, Right? Is something I can help you with? Well, there is one thing I want to ask you. Alright, Your Highness, you can ask me anything. I promise to answer it honestly. Do you love my sister? If first, he was silent. I. You said you can honestly. Honestly, yes, I am in fact in love with her, but I know that it's perhaps not possibility to be with her. I mean, I'm just a guard. She's a royal princess of all. You know, I had the thought about the same thing, but I couldn't really remember that the old captain of the royal guard, shining armor. Ah, yes, shining armor. He was dating Princess Cadence before during the time, and now they're also married. He was a royal guard. Yes, but he was a captain of the royal guard. I'm just a simple guard. I have no idea if the public was the one who would accept that. Even despite of even if maybe if she's in love with you, have you even considered if she was in love with you, would be willing to throw all that away to be happy with someone like her? She said. And for that, Blade Trail didn't say anything else and said, well, Your Highness, even if she was in love with me, I would let her go to be happy with someone else. I know that even if she was in love with me, I would not force her to be with someone like me, even if I'm just a simple guard. And then he bowed and left for back to the surface. Luna was stunned. She never expected to hear that he was in fact in love with her older sister. But even that, he was willing to give up his own feelings for or even a potential to be with someone like with Celestia. She was stunned though. But she had to respect his wish. But as the months passed, the season of the year passed until winter had arrived at Camelot. The heart-warming eve was getting approached. It was only about a week away when Blade Trail had asked his new captain if it was possible for him to leave town to go back to Trondheim to spend time with his family for the holiday. And he was actually granted that since they had many new recruits and many other officers who had decided to stay, so he's probably one of the two other guards who'd be leaving. But before he left, he had this small talk with the other guards, just wishing some happy holidays and hoped to see them soon before the holiday was over. But it was something else though, because when he went to his apartment to get his last package, or at least his backpack, he noticed a gift box with a small package outside the door, and it was in fact to him. But it wasn't a name who it was from. So he actually scratched his head and asked himself, who can have sent this gift to me? But he didn't open it. Since the holiday was only about a couple of days away, so he decided to wait. On the holiday in Trondheim, his family was really happy to see that he was back home and that they want to know more what's happening back in Canterlot. Like they want to know more about his duties and something. It's very adventurous, something terrifying, some terrifying moment that happened, or just. But he explained that nothing as much big thing has happened. Just normal things like guard the people, and the police in town, the castle. Even if it was that much. But when they opened the gifts, he opened the last mysterious gift last. When he opened it was just a scarf, but a note. He didn't know exactly who could have made this scarf, but it was a blue scarf, and he liked it. But he could notice it was in fact hoof made. But there was something about it, and he couldn't even put it. But when he read the note, His eyes got big, but he tried to act calm and it's normal. And it turned out it was a note from Celestia. Celestia had made a scarf for him as a heartwarming gift to show him how much she really cared about him. She wrote that she was really sorry if she couldn't be with him, or at least been to be in a relationship with him, but she understands his wish to be just be friends with her and wishes him a happy holiday. He was stunned. Even his parents asked who gave him this scarf as a gift. He quickly he put it back the note back in the box and said, "Oh, a friend of mine back in Canterlot made it for me." "Oh, that's nice. You have many new friends there?" "You have no idea, mother. Lots of new friends. And especially the new captain of the Royal Guard, though. He's quite nice, actually. He's quite an experienced trainer." And after the holiday was over, he went back to Canterlot. But during the trip back, there was only one thing on his mind: Celestia. Why would she give me this gift? I even told her how I felt for her. Unless Luna had told her, he thought himself. But I'm not even sure if she was telling her sister about this. Maybe Celestia had a feeling about this. Maybe. But he didn't push that much of thought anymore. So when he came back to Canterlot, he decided to take the rest of the remaining of his spare time to spend time in his apartment. He was not originally supposed to be back on service on duty after New Year's Eve, and it was only about a couple of days left of the holiday, so he decided to spend time with that. When New Year's Eve came and gone, he went back to service. And even when he saw Celestia from time to time in the castle, he tried to act normal and professional, and he always agreed her, and they had small talk, and he went back to his duties. But just after barely 2 months after being back from the holidays, Luna had noticed that how much Blade Trail acted around her own sister. She knows that he's still in love with her older sister, but he preferred not to be involved in romantic. This time she wanted to tell her sister exactly what happened. And she was surprised that Blade Trail in fact had confirmed to her younger sister months earlier that he had feelings for Celestia, but he was willing to give up his happiness to be with her, and that she could maybe be with someone else. Hearing that made her heart break, but she realized maybe it was time to tell him, at least how she felt. So she decided went to the castle garden, and she knows that he just sometimes during the day walking by in the area, just doing some of his duties. But as she was waiting there, as sure enough he came by, when he saw her, she asked him to come back to ask him to come forward so they can talk for a moment. Even though he said that he had to continue his work, his duties, but he said, "This will only take a brief moment, only a couple of minutes, I promise." And he shook his head, he nodded, and walked up to her, clueless what is she wanted to talk about. At first, they talked about what has happened. Well, mostly about their during holidays, but then she'd ask him if he had talked to Luna or anything before the holidays, which he did said yes that they did talk, and she asked him if something else had happened, like what if there was any particular they talked about. He tried to remember there's some more details, but he said only about, but the moral stuff, guard stuff, something like that. But when she did in fact brought up the topic about him being in love with her, made him stop. Wait, So you do know. She nodded, but she wasn't smiling. She then said to him, I understand if you really want to be with somebody else, despite being such in love with me, as much as I'm in love with you. Wait, so you are in fact in love with me? Yes, I am, he said with a smile, a small smile, a whisper. The reason why I didn't tell you is that I don't know if you would even date a simple guard, running from a cadence with the shining armor, but he was a captain. I'm just a small ranking, a low ranking guard in the castle. But that wouldn't even matter, said Luna with a bit high tone. That surprised him and looked at her. She was crying. I wouldn't care if you was a low ranking guard or the captain or even general. I've been dating you. No matter what happens. You know that. He was taken aback. He didn't know exactly what to say, to answer, or at least to react. Are you sure about that, Your Highness? Please, just call me Celestia. It's my name after all. As yours is Blade Trail. You know that. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I I understand. But tell me, are you in love with me still? And would you have been willing to even go out with me, even if you had the chance? At first, he was silent, for only a few seconds when he said, Yes, I still love you, and yes, I would have been going out with you if I had the chance. So, do you want to go out with me? On an official date? He looked at her with a bit surprised. Wait, are you even asking me? He asked. She nodded. Uh, I I have no idea what to say, and, well, yes, I want to go out with you. So they decided to have a picnic in the park in the castle garden, and by the next day, when this news came out in the castle, a lot of the other guards were so surprised that Celestia was in fact now dating, or at least had asked out the Mr. Pranks or Joke Man or Jokester, what they called him, or aka Blade Trail. They were just surprised. But when Luna heard about it, she just smiled and said to herself, It's about time they actually did it. She smiled and said to herself. But the next day, they actually went to the castle garden to have a picnic. Even at first, there was quite a silence where they had no idea to talk about. But after a while, though, they broke the ice and started talking about random things, about their hobbies and what they like to do. And it actually has sparked an interest between them. Despite they had only known each other for only 2 years, but it felt like they had known each other for eternity. And Luna was really happy to see that her older sister now had a boyfriend. And even despite what's happening between them, after a couple of months they actually had already announced to the public they were dating. Because it wouldn't even take long for the public to even realize that Celestia was now dating another guard. Or at least one of their favorite guards in her mind. But she was just happy to be that. And after they had been together for nearly 4 years, Luna was really happy to see that they still been together. But after being together for 4 years, Blade Trail and Celestia were in the castle garden to have a picnic when Blade Trail had something to ask Celestia. We asked her to close her eyes. When she did, he went on a knee and showed her a ring and asked if she wanted to get married. Celestia started to cry and said yes repeatedly. She actually literally grabbed Blade Trail by his and start kissing him, and they was just happy that. And soon enough, when the rest of the friends was informed, they were just happy. Even Cadence back in the Crystal Empire was just happy to know that her adopted aunt had found a true love. They decided to have a wedding in Candlewood Castle within the next couple of months. And on the wedding day, Celestia was smiling. She felt excited, thrilled, but most of all, happy that she was going to spend the rest of her life with the pony she loved the most. And even after all of this, what else could Blade Trail be feeling? He felt relieved, excited, but most of all, happy. Happy to be married with, going to be married with the pony that he loved the most. And in fact, even after the wedding itself was over, they actually had so much joy with spending time with this, with the friends and other, and even some diplomats from other kingdoms. Even all the friends and diplomats actually said they said that they were really happy to about them to be married. They even went to a tropical island together for the honeymoon for a whole week. But during the time when they was away, Luna had help from Twilight to taking care of some of the royal duties, and it wasn't any problem. But after they had been living together for had been married for 2 years, they decided they want to have a family. And after nearly 5 months, they came out in a public announcement. They were expecting a baby. They were expecting a daughter. And they were right. After a few months later, they had a daughter which turned out to be an alicorn. But just barely 3 more years later, they were expecting another baby. And it was in fact a boy. They were so happy to have at least one daughter and one boy. And the boy turned out to be an alicorn. But something about after just shortly, but as the time passed, a couple of years after that, Blade Trail had noticed he didn't seem to be getting any older or has even aged a bit for the past few years. When he told the Celestia about this, and it later turned out Celestia had put a spell on Blade Trail as a gift, and that was in fact the spell of immortality. When he was told, he was surprised, but he didn't mind. After all, since Celestia and Luna themselves were also immortal. So that would make that Celestia and Blade Trail would spend the rest of their eternity together. But just during that time, they were even expecting a third baby, which did turn out to be a daughter also burned to be born as an alicorn. But during this time of them being together, Blade Trail was really excited to have finally to be with the one he loved the most of all. He couldn't be more excited if he had even told Luna that if he really loved Celestia, he would have missed out so much joy, so much happiness with some pony that he really cared about. Even Celestia, when she had even told, or maybe had even asked Blade Trail, or even had confessed her feelings for Luna about her feelings for Blade Trail, she may had not even encountered and found her true soulmate. She really is excited to be happy with the one that she loved the most. Not only to be married, but also have a family with him. Something they both really agreed to have. Even after so much joy on being together, Luna could see so much joy within Celestia on their wedding day. She really was happy to see her older sister to be married with a true soulmate. And this is how Celestia and Blade Trail for the true love are gonna big family together. The end.